Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. My guest today is Ghassan Salamé. He is the UN Special Envoy for Libya. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
The situation is obviously very tense in Libya. In early April, Marshal Khalifa Haftar launched an assault on the capital, Tripoli, and he was certainly hoping to conquer the capital and the whole country. The fighting rages against the troops of the prime minister recognized by the international community, Fayez al-Sarraj. You delivered a very blunt account of the situation to the UN Security Council. Since then, Marshal Haftar saying to a French newspaper that you were no longer an impartial mediator, that you were biased. What is your response to those very serious accusations?
Well, I'm not biased. I am absolutely impartial. Now, when you have a brief to the Security Council that lasts for 15 pages, if you take a sentence here or a sentence there that you do not like, you sound impartial. But if you see the whole, you see that it is fact-based. And therefore, that's what I invited Mr. Haftar to do, to read the whole thing and not excerpts out of the context as some of his aides had served him.
There's one sentence apparently that he didn't like. You were saying that Libya, I quote you, is on the brink of a civil war that could lead to a permanent division of the country. And he said, well, partition is maybe what our opponents want. This is maybe what Ghassan Salamé also wants. Your response?
My response is very clear. He should thank me. He should thank me. Because if there is one point on which I fully agree with Mr. Haftar, it is on the necessity to keep Libya one and to defend the territorial integrity of this country. Therefore, when you come and tell people, alert the Security Council that there is a risk of a civil war. It doesn't mean you want a civil war. When you alert the Security Council that there is a risk of partition, it doesn't mean you want partition. In fact, you don't want a civil war, you don't want a partition, and that is the position of the United Nations, absolutely. We don't want partition and we don't want a civil war. The fact of alerting people to that doesn't mean that you wish it to happen. Quite to the contrary. And that is why I think on this particular point, we are absolutely on the same line with Mr. Haftar.
But when he says you are a biased negotiator, this means he doesn't want you as a negotiator anymore. Are you thinking of essentially saying, okay, he doesn't want me, so I'm gone? Or have you reached out to him and have you discussed this since those very serious allegations?
We have discussed it. And I invited...
Personally?
Yes, personally. And I invited him to read the whole text of my brief to the Security Council and not excerpts taken left and right, and to see that it is factually based. There is a brief to the Security Council is made of two things. First, facts. If there is a single fact that is not verifiable, then people can criticize me. But not a single fact has not been verified 10 times before it is in my brief. And second, there are prospects. You need to tell the Security Council members, what do you expect? And here I was pessimistic. I was telling them, if you don't move, then this could fester, this could attract terrorists, this could ruin the economy of the country, this could lead to a civil war, this could lead to a partition of the country. I said all this, and I am at this point saying the same thing. Therefore, I was pushing the Security Council to move. Mr. Haftar didn't say that he doesn't want me as a mediator.
Did he tell you that he wants you to continue?
Yes.
He accepts?
Yes. I had an explanation with him, and I invited him to read the whole text and to differentiate between somebody who is alerting against partition with somebody who is calling for partition.
Before we get to the message, the very blunt message you delivered to the UN Security Council, I want to go back to early April, you were in the last steps of preparing a major national conference to be held in mid-April that would chart the way for a peaceful solution. And Marshal Haftar decides to attack Tripoli. So clearly what he was saying in terms of meeting with Fayed al-Sarraj, with you saying, okay, I'm ready to negotiate. In the meantime, he was preparing what he thought would be a decisive military attack. So he wasn't telling you the truth.
Well, I was surprised by this attack.
To say the least.
I was saddened also that it took place while my boss,
You felt betrayed?
the Secretary General of the United Nations,
He was there.
Was in Tripoli. I was also saddened by the fact that some countries had told the SG that nothing would happen in Libya during his stay. And either they were not informed or they were not telling him the truth. And I was, to a large extent, as I told the Security Council, this is the report I have spent the past 2 years not writing. Because, of course, all what we were doing was meant to avoid a military confrontation. The meetings we have organized with the municipalities, with the armed groups, between Mr. Hefner and Mr. Sarraj, between the East and the West, but everything we have been doing to be, and the cherry on the cake was supposed to be the national conference. All what we were doing was to say there is a political process that is possible. All what I'm saying today, that there is nothing but a political solution at the end.
Right.
Therefore, I hope we can put this fighting between brackets and go back to the negotiating table as soon as possible.
I mean, he clearly delivered what he truly believes. A military solution is what he wants, despite whatever he says. So how can you trust someone who's obviously a big player in the Libyan equation to really do this in terms of political negotiation in good faith?
I think there is a moment.
Because he didn't win.
There is a moment, which is not today, where the belligerents on the ground, their supporters outside, and the Security Council will come to the conclusion that not only a military solution is not possible, but continuing to harbor this idea is extremely dangerous to the Libyan population and to international peace and security. I am just pushing to accelerate the happenings of that moment, where everybody opens his eyes and says, this is a country of 1 million, 0.5 or 0.6 square kilometers, with only 6 million people or 7 million people, with a number of groups, armed groups around.
Terrorist groups.
And with also some terrorist groups, and a lot of wealth, and a number of tribes. And a country like that needs some kind of a national identity, national conference to produce that identity, and national institutions established by consensus. One day will come. I was dreaming that it will come in Ghadames on April the 14th. The road to that was cut, but I didn't change my mind. I believe that there is only a political solution to the Libyan crisis.
You also, as you hinted, delivered a very blunt message to the Security Council saying the arms embargo was a quote-unquote cynical joke, and that it essentially didn't behave in a moral, ethical way. The Security Council doesn't care about Libya. The major powers, all the regional powers that are meddling in Libya, basically, that's what you're saying.
I think that the violation of the arms embargo by all parties,
in front of TV cameras,
now televised and YouTubed and you name it, the violation of the arms embargo is only one aspect of the lack of unity and authority of the international community. It's not easy for me to represent a divided and sometimes impotent international community. It's not easy. But one needs to keep working towards this ideal. I know there are different levels of unity. Unity by complacency, unity by indifference. I need a unity by action. I need a Security Council that says that an arms embargo has been imposed and then names and shames and punishes and sanctions those who are violating that arms embargo, either by being Libyans importing these arms or by being countries abroad buying, selling, or giving these weapons. Same for international humanitarian law. If we do have this international law, and if it is violated, and it has been violated by, for example, the fact that so many ambulances have been hit by shells, I need naming and shaming and sanctioning. If the international community loses the weapons with which it can impose peace and order on conflicts, we will lose our credibility as an organization slowly and gradually. That is why I was blunt with the Security Council, and if I had to address the Security Council again, I will use exactly the same language.
In a few words, did you think about resigning, and how long do you give yourself in that position?
I gave my word to the Libyans that I will do my utmost.
Maybe you did already.
Peace. I did. I think I did a lot, but now they need me more than ever. And that's what they are telling me. And as long as they are telling me that, I am at their service.
Ghassan Salamé, thank you very much for coming on the France 24 set. And thank you for watching this edition of The Interview. Stay tuned for more news.